Hi folks, and welcome to Tech with Troy. Today we're going to expand our coverage to looking at some Android tablets. Specifically, there's an RCA Voyager 7-inch Android tablet for sale at Walmart. They're listing it for $42.99. This comes with a keyboard, and it looks pretty interesting. It's got, it shows it sliding down into the case, and it almost looks like, if we zoom in there, that there might be, I don't know if that's a way for the tablet to actually dock with a keyboard, but I don't see any wires, which a lot of the cheap Android tablets normally have a wire to hook the keyboard up. So I'm just interested in seeing exactly how this works. The specs aren't the best. It's running Android 6 Marshmallow, and there's been Nougat Ice Cream, and I think they're up to Pie right now. So it's not the latest version of Android. But for the price, it looks like a pretty good deal, and I figured it wouldn't hurt for us to go ahead and take a look at it. So let's go ahead and open it up and take a look at it. So it came in the typical Walmart box, and then inside it, it has the manufacturer's box. And it looks like that when you open that up, there's yet another box inside. So it should be fairly well protected, I would say. Now this box says RCA, so I imagine it's inside a cocoon, one of those hard cardboard things inside. Let's take a look and see. Yep, sure enough, corrugated cardboard or whatever they call it. And then a piece of styrofoam on top of that to protect it. So looks like they've already got the tablet inside the little case. It is black on the bottom, in case that's something you're interested in. It's a fairly heavy little case too. The tablet itself is thick, but the way it fits inside is sort of fairly interesting. Let's see what else is in the box. So it has the instructions, probably quick start, and how to do things, and then it has a fairly slim little power adapter. Okay. Now we'll have to power it up and we'll get everything installed, but right away it looks like, I think if we pull on, I can't really tell. We'll have to figure out how to get this out of its little shell and see how docking works. So let me segue to that, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, and we're back. Looks like I should have read the manual to start with. So the way this slides in and out of the case, and let me make sure I have it over here with the webcam so you can see it, is that it basically pops out. So there's two little recesses in the back here, and if you put your hand grasping the case itself, and then you press sort of into the case on the exposed back panel, and then at the same time put your thumb on these two little tabs here, the top of the tablet itself pops out, and then you simply lift it out. Now, if you can see, there are little connections there for the keyboard case, and then there's accompanying pins inside the keyboard case itself. So that's a fairly interesting way to set that up. It's very similar to the way that Amazon does with some of its Fire tablets in their docking stations, if you will. So we'll go ahead and get this thing powered up and get logged in, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the features. Okay folks, now discovered a couple of interesting things during the setup. First of all, because of the way the tablet is connected to the keyboard, you're not going to run into the problem that you would have with Bluetooth, which is the keyboard might not be paired initially, so you basically have to sit there and use the on-screen keyboard in order to log in. We were able to use the keyboard from the start to go ahead and do the login process. Now, a couple of comments about the keyboard before we go on. The keyboard, it's fairly thick and sturdy, which is both good and bad. It does not expand past Looks like about 110, 115 degrees. So it's going to look like a little laptop. It won't do a 2-in-1 tint mode or anything like that. It is easy enough to pop the tablet out, and I have seen several reasonably priced cases on Amazon that you could put this same tablet in. It's also of a similar size to other 7-inch tablets. So most generic cases that would have little elastic straps at the corners to hold it in would work fine too. Now the case is fine. It does, I guess, both. If it needs any power, it must get its power from those little pins, and then it sends the signal back. The keyboard itself is very, very cheap, and you can tell that. It is nice that it has, I'll hold this up to the camera so you can hopefully see. It does have function keys, so you can change things like volume, you can change things like, looks like brightness, most of the things that you would expect to see. You can go to home, you can open up the search dialog all through function key settings, and it has page up, page down, and so forth. So it's a nice little keyboard for the price. Now, the tablet itself, a couple of sort of strange things. First of all, as most electronic pieces do, it came with a piece of plastic. Now, this plastic isn't actually a screen protector that's intended to stay on, and you could sort of tell because they had a little pull tab on the corner. I'll hold it up so you can see it. But I pulled on the pull tab, and the pull tab actually came off the piece of plastic. Now, the plastic was on there fairly nicely and everything, but it's obvious that this is way too thin and flimsy to be a permanent type screen protector. You can buy these for this type of tablet fairly easily. So my concern would be somebody pulls on this thing and they pull the little tab off. The piece of plastic is still on the screen, and it has a dimming effect on what you're seeing, and somebody who didn't know any better might not realize that. So I would have spent a couple more microcents to get a little bit better cover that was meant to be removed, and maybe have a little bit more direction about removing that. Another thing that's weird, and I don't know if you can tell here, I'm just sort of looking at it by eye, but the bottom, when you have it in, unplug it for a second, when you have it in the little keyboard case, the bottom bezel is actually thinner than the top bezel. And that top bezel is pretty darn thick. Now, I suspect one reason is that they've got a camera, and I haven't tested the resolution of the camera, but I can't imagine it's very high. So they have a camera up there, but the right bezel is also thicker than the left bezel. That's sort of odd, and I don't know why they made that choice. It's not that off-putting, but it is something to mention. Now, when you look at all the ports that are on the end, first of all, let me point out that if you flip it over to the back, there's actually a port for a micro SD card. So this thing is expandable. I suspect, looking at the version of Android it's using and everything, it'll take up to about a 32 gig micro SD card, but it's probably not going to take anything much larger than that. They do have power button. They've got a headphone jack. They've got a USB, micro USB connector, which is good because it turns out I am not a big fan of the charger that they sent. The charger is a 5-volt charger, and it says whatever you do, don't use any other charger in that port. It has a little bitty pin that goes into the port. I guarantee, because it's a nice small charger, I guarantee that if you buy this for a kid, they're going to lose this thing. But it turns out that's okay because apparently you can also charge to the micro USB port. So that's handy. Micro USB is what older cell phones use, so you've probably got a couple of these chargers hanging around. And then right next to it is where the little barrel connector for the DC charger they did send to us goes. And then there's the volume rocker. Now, couple of comments. This thing has one speaker on the back. It's pretty terrible. It's pretty tinny, but again, depending upon what you get this for, particularly if you get it for a kid and they're using headphones, it's going to work out fine. I would recommend that if you buy it, particularly for a younger child, that you get one of the sets of headphones that are designed not to allow really loud noises to damage their hearing. And I know that some of the other packages that Walmart sells for some of their other tablets do come with child-friendly headphones. They also sell child-friendly headphones, so definitely make sure you get those. Didn't have a chance to run much on it yet. It seems to run fairly well when I do one thing. I was actually watching
every machine that I've seen with Windows 10s does
one of my videos,
have the opportunity to upgrade to
and if you can hear
Windows 10.
the sound on that, I guess I should hold it to the mic.
Which will allow you to run apps that are not from the
It's
Windows
really
Store
tinny.
or some-
Again, over the headphones, that's not going to matter. And it seems to have fairly, decent resolution. It is glossy, so it's going to pick up glare. I'll check how well it runs in terms of running multiple apps. One of the nice things, and by the way, I know that one of the alternatives a lot of people might want to consider instead of this would be an Amazon Fire tablet or even one of their Kindle tablets. One of the nice things that this has that something from Amazon would not have is it does have access to the Play Store, so you should be able to load any Android apps. Now keep in mind that this is only running version 6 point something of Android, so if there are newer apps that are designed specifically for running version 7, 8, or maybe even 9, which came out I think this last summer, those might not run as well. But to be honest, most of the things you're going to run, YouTube, maybe listening to music or reading. So I'll install the Kindle app, I'll install a couple of other apps, make sure how it works. But for the money, this isn't a bad tablet. And I'll be honest, I sort of like the little built-in keyboard. I like the fact that you never have to pair it, which if you've ever worked with a child trying to pair a Bluetooth headset or a Bluetooth anything, you know how much fun that can be. And I like the way it closes. I mean, it's chunky and clunky, but in some ways that's not bad. And if you want to throw this in your purse, or if you want the kid to throw it in their backpacks, they'll have it available and they can just pop it open. The keyboard does provide, a nice alternative way of interfacing. You'll notice that the keyboard does not have a touchpad. That's very common on Android tablets in particular, because the idea is that you will interface via touch through the screen. Looks like out of the box it doesn't come with a lot of bloatware, as we say. It does offer to install, if you have had an Android phone or an Android tablet in the past, it does offer to install all of your previously installed apps from a backup. I chose not to do so because with I think 16 gig of RAM, my phone has 64, so I don't think all my apps would install. So I'll try my usual Android apps on it, see how this thing works. It comes with the usual collection of Google apps. So Google Go, Google Assistant, YouTube, Gmail, and Maps Go. I noticed when it booted up, it said this thing was Android Go, which I'm not real sure what Android Go is. But it seems, like I said, to work fairly well. I'll update it after I get a chance to look at it some more. Thanks, and as always, if you've liked this video, we'd appreciate it if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And look forward to getting more reviews of selected, particularly Android tablets, going forth. Take care, and everybody have a good holiday. Bye.